My name is John Hasty, and I've recently had an interesting experience where I lost over 40 pounds of weight, and it was easy and it was fun. And I've got a lot of folks that have started asking me, well, how the heck did you do that? And it didn't feel like a big deal to me at the time because it just happened so naturally for me. But once people started asking about 40 pounds, they said, 40 pounds, that's a lot of weight. I've got a new grandson. It's more than 4 of my new grandson. It's, almost a third of the weight of many people I know. My wife is a little smaller. It's almost half of her weight. Don't tell her I said that. I went into the cupboard when people started talking about this, and I pulled out, we feed dogs. There's a 40-pound bag of dog food that we buy every 2 weeks, and I pulled the thing out of the closet. I started looking at it. I can't imagine where the 40 pounds was on me. I just can't imagine. When I started this, I had deluded myself into thinking that I was in pretty good shape. I had no major health issues, I had no real challenges, but I visited the doctors. They had to cut off a little too much sun from the skin someplace, and while we were there, they noticed that my blood pressure was, in their mind, somewhat elevated. There were days I was hitting something like 170 over I don't know what, and they were getting pretty anxious about it. They wanted to put me on meds for something like the rest of my life. And I didn't want to go there. They were talking about blood pressure meds and cholesterol meds, and I said, no, we're not doing that. And they said, well, this is dangerous. So you're playing Russian roulette, you could die any minute. I said, just give me a few months and we'll talk again. And I started this effort on December 19th, and within 3 months I'd lost the 40 pounds. My scale at home was showing me at 35% body fat, if you can imagine that. I'm currently under 24% and dropping. And again, this was fun stuff. I was eating foods I've never eaten before, having a good time with that. My body was adjusting and kind of craving some good foods. The exercise I was doing was fairly simple. Not a lot of rocket science, not killing it, not going crazy at it. And the weight just came off very quickly. One of the cores that I discovered in the process for me that made it a lot easier and is making it easier now for some of the people that I'm talking with online is the idea of what I think of as habit linking. It frustrates me when people tell me, oh, I can't do this, can't do that. I always look for the reason we can do things. And they were telling me, well, it takes forever to change a habit. I'm really struggling with the habit, and I just have this habit. And I go, oh, that's fixable. What I've discovered is if you link a new or desired habit to an existing habit, you can make a change in a single day. In some cases, for me with water, it was instantaneous. I had a pretty bad diet soda habit. During the course of the day, busy, needed the caffeine, I thought, and I was grabbing diet sodas. I didn't even have a count, but people tell me it was a lot. And so I decided I need to drink water. I mean, it's pretty obvious if you're going to make the change to a healthier lifestyle, the water is a great idea, and it makes you feel so much better. So within an instant, I decided that every time I'm feeling like grabbing a soda, I'm just going to change the habit. I'm going to use that desire and pick up a bottle of water instead. And the change was that instantaneous. It struggled for days. Maybe on the first few days, I really wanted a soda, but every time I felt the urge, I'd grab water instead, and it started feeling better. Within a week, the call for a soda was softer, quieter, more distant, and it was kind of nice because it was a trigger for more water. And then within a short period of time at all, I never even felt the call for the soda anymore. It just went away. But the point is, the behavior changed, the habit changed that day, right then. I had one member I was working with online, and just giving them some advice. She was just trying to understand. I noticed she was struggling. She couldn't get her exercise in. So busy during the day, and she lived in an apartment complex up on the 11th floor, and she just couldn't get any exercise, I said to her, well, link the habit. Every day you walk home, you get out of your car, you go in the front door, and you press the elevator button, and you go up to your apartment, right? Right. Well, I said, walk the stairs. And she said, oh my God, I can't, it's 11 flights, I got a little soreness in the knee, and I said, well, just press the button for the 8th floor instead, and just walk the last 3 flights. She said, oh my God, I could do that. And suddenly, that day, every day she came home, her habit instantly changed. When she got in the elevator, she didn't hit 11, she hit 8. That's all she needed. And then pretty soon she was hitting 6. And so she's gotten her exercise in, things are changing for her, but it's just a matter of making a sudden change in the habit, and by linking it to a pre-existing habit, the call, the energy, the habit is already there. You're just making a slight tweak. That made a difference for me and for some of the folks that I've been chatting with about this, and it's been huge. You won't be perfect at this. I dropped 40 pounds in most of it in 2 months, fully in 3 months, and I wasn't perfect at this. I mean, I made mistakes, I screwed things up, but I absolutely ignored that stuff. If I'll tell you what I didn't do is I didn't have any cookies. My wife bakes like crazy, and we hit the Christmas holidays, and I was delivering trays of cookies to everybody, and I didn't have a one because I'd made a decision. You know, I'm moving in a direction I don't need that, and I figured for 60 to 90 days I can do anything, and I can skip a cookie during this Christmas and worry about it next year. But now my body, it's funny because after a while your body changes, your appetite changes. There were days when people were coming into the break room at work with those great big icing covered cookies, and after I started this I might have been interested, but a couple weeks into this I looked at it and thought, Jesus, how can you put that stuff in your mouth? I mean, your body adjusts, your body begins to want healthier foods. It's a sort of a natural process. On the exercise side, I did the little things like, I'm drinking more water, so habit linking again. I'm drinking more water. Well, I had a need to visit certain parts of the house that more frequently than I'm used to. So what I did was I put a little tower between my desk at home and the restroom. So every time I had to get up and change the water, I would stop and I'd do 14 leg lifts on the way back. Not a lot, just 14 leg lifts on the way back before I sat down. So just a link. So I linked having to get rid of the water to leg lifts, and that took care of some of the exercises, and I didn't have to count or worry about how many times a day I was doing it. It was just part of the process. I made sure that was between me and the kitchen, between me and the restroom, and it was right next to my desk, so I couldn't ignore the thing. So small things just made it easier. Some people have real struggles in their life, but a core is how they're focused on this, how they're looking at it, and it's a lot easier than they imagine. That's the other thing that I tell all of them. I said, look, you're coming into this with a core set of beliefs, and you're imagining the weight loss process, and you're imagining that it's difficult, and it's going to be an uphill challenge, and it's hard, and you've been told it takes forever to change a habit, and it's a lot of hard work to lose weight. Well, I'm telling you that for me and others, it's not. It's a fairly simple process, and it was a lot of fun, and hopefully we can share some of that with you and open your eyes as well. The reason that I'm driven to do this is, I've been around, my whole family is really large. My father's had quadruple bypass surgery. He's diabetic. He's lost the feeling in one of his feet. He kind of drags around. Not a direction I want to go in. Not a direction I want members of my family to go in. I have an obligation. I have 4 children. I have an obligation to my children. I've got one son who's much larger around than I am right now, and part of it's because of the example that I set for him. And one of the great joys that's come out of this in just these past few months is there are people around me getting healthier I had nothing to do with other than be an example. And I've got colleagues that have been out on the road for years, working hard, providing for their families, fighting the good fight, and their health is challenged. This was a turnaround and a life-changing moment for me. When I met with the doctors and they started getting concerned about my blood pressure and telling me I was going to have to have blood pressure medicine and cholesterol medicine, and I made the decision to change things. As I went through that process, I noticed some things that are making it easier for others. And so, I know that having a little bit different perspective on this and a few different habits on your approach to weight loss can make it a lot more fun, a lot easier, and a lot more doable, and it can save lives. And so I just share the information to help save lives. The whole purpose of this channel is to simply put the information out there, and if you find it valuable, if you think that it helps you and it may help others, then just go ahead and become a friend of the channel, subscribe to the channel, and let everybody you know about it, and see if we can't make a difference in some people's lives.